All right, all right, all right. I believe we are now live. And how are you all doing today? Let me turn down my volume before I start interrupting myself here in the stream. So how are you all doing today? I am joined today with a special guest. And wait a second. Hold on a second here. Let me. That's weird. Give me 1 second, everyone. I apparently somehow I made this video unlisted, and I'm not sure why that is. So let me make that public so that people can actually see that we're live. That'd probably be a good thing. Um, and then okay, there we go. We should be all set now. So I see we have Alex McCarthy in the chat. Hello, Alex. Welcome to the stream. Like I said, I am joined today by a special guest. He is obviously someone who's watching Game of Thrones as well. Otherwise, he wouldn't be on the stream. But how are you doing today, Black Angus?
I'm not bad. You know, it's funny you said that because my first or second live stream after Rookie started doing them last year, I was going to have him stuff. But yeah, I've been in that situation before. So yeah, I'm just happy to be here, though. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. This should be fun to talk about this episode. There's a lot of stuff that happened in this episode. I mean, in some ways it kind of went how I expected, but in other ways it was there were some pretty awesome surprises in there as well. So, let's see, Alex McCarthy. I guess everyone is still sleeping or too traumatized by that Arya scene. Yeah, we will definitely be talking about that because I saw that Jeremy posted a video about it, and I have my own thoughts about it, and I'm sure Black Angus does as well. I don't know. You guys might or might not like the things that I have to say about that. Guess we'll have to wait and see. Let me just share this real quick to Twitter and let everyone know that we are live now. So do you celebrate Easter, Black Angus, at all, or?
No, my kids, they did, celebration or whatever, went egg hunting and whatnot. But yeah, I'm an atheist, so I grew up with it. I still think, it's nice and everything. It's just like I have no investment anymore, so it's kind of like I didn't even realize it's Easter. I'm like, go in the store and see all this stuff. I'm like, oh
yeah. Yep, I hear you there. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's silly to me how holidays continue to put out their crap for them earlier and earlier. It seems like it just gets earlier every time, but I guess that just comes with the whole commercialization of these different holidays and stuff. That's just part of the thing that comes with that, I guess. Let's see.
You know, it's funny. Speaking about Easter, it's funny because people, partaking of the holiday, they're revering the life of Christ. He's risen, and it's funny the inverse we have with Game of Thrones because everyone is feeling they're going to die.
Yeah, exactly. It's really funny. That's a really good point. I also am going to be eating some of these on stream probably because I needed breakfast and this was the only thing I could find. So I'm going to be eating Peeps for breakfast. So I have a pretty exciting breakfast today, I guess. But I do have coffee. I'm still trying to get over this stinking sickness that I got from Chicago, and it's been especially in the morning, it's been really rough.
How can a white male Christian male go to MAGA country and get sick? He should be immune.
I must have gotten sick from the Nigerians or something like that. I don't
know. They're probably disguised in whiteface with all your racist fandom ministers.
Dang it, they fooled me. I thought that they were white people, but nope. Those Nigerians, you got to watch out for them. Let's see. We have Comrade Commodore in the chat. Hello, welcome to the stream. Let's see. I had Cadbury eggs for breakfast. There you go. That's the way to do it. So I guess we can go ahead and start talking about the episode last night. So Black Angus, what were your overall thoughts about it? What did you think about this episode? Were there any surprises? Was there any expectations that you had that didn't go according to the way you expected, or what?
Well, I guess you kind of avoid getting too detailed at the moment, just starting, but I expected the enemy to start coming through the crypts. I guess it could still be a plan or a venture, but I expected it to be like a surprise in this episode. But yeah, this was really an extension of episode 1 of just really laying out the cards, if you will, setting out the playing field for everyone, and really adding to the chemistry or the how would I say it, the corroding of chemistry between characters. There's always hints of and there's there's still some power struggles. I would say definitely John, Danny, and Sansa, the big three that are having this weird power struggle. And I definitely have an idea or a theory now that we're so close to the end about what the Song of Fire and Ice really means. I think it's kind of whittled down to a few players in the game, but I think it's not what we expect. And maybe the resolution isn't what we might think either, of like one side winning.
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't expect that there would be I didn't expect the battle to be this episode, so there weren't any surprises with me there. I definitely thought this episode would be leading into the battle, and that's kind of how it went. But yeah, so I think that this episode had some of my favorite scenes in a long time from Game of Thrones, and those were the scenes where you had like the 6 different characters that are sitting around the fire, just talking, and then what's his face? I can't even. The kid sang his song and stuff, and then Jamie knighted Brienne. I thought that was just incredible. That was a very, very awesome scene, I thought.
And the singing, I just want to ask you really quick, because it evoked was it Merry or Pippin that sang during that battle on the river in front of
that was Pippin. Yep.
Yeah, that really evoked that sense of especially with them showing different couples or interactions. It definitely felt like they were hinting at a Sansa Greyjoy unification of some sort, or something deeper, which I think would make a lot of sense with all the hurt they've caused each other, mainly Greyjoy against Sansa. But there's definitely some chemistry there. But there's the whole he's memberless now, so prodigy. But yeah, I mean, you got something with Greyjoy as well, or not Greyjoy, Grey Worm, to kind of mirror that. So I mean, it could work, I guess, if they're willing to sacrifice prodigy. But I don't know, it's just really cool how they set that up with that song, especially with what's his name? Not Podrick. There you go. I was gonna say Pippin's. Yeah, Podrick.
There you go. Yeah.
Great voice. Really suited the environment as far as his vocals.
Yeah, it really did. And there were definitely I got a lot of vibes of Helm's Deep and Minas Tirith from this episode. There was a lot of that kind of same sort of feelings and emotions and all of that stuff. And I mean, that's not a bad thing. I thought that was just really cool how it kind of brought back those kind of feelings that I remember from watching Helm's Deep for the first time, when that was going to be going down in the movie and into Two Towers and all that stuff. So I thought that was really cool. And yeah, like I said, like Jamie knighting Brienne, I thought was probably one of the coolest moments from a while in Game of Thrones for me. Um, I remember that I used to hate Jamie quite a bit, especially like back in back in the first few seasons, especially. I thought he was just horrible. And now like I like even like in the beginning of the episode where where Jamie's there, the council's there, they're trying to decide what to do with Jamie, and pretty much everyone's like, yeah, we should let him stay and help and all that stuff. And then Daenerys was kind of there. She's like trying to think it over. And I was like, come on, Daenerys, just let him help out. And then just then I was just thinking, wow, I've really changed my thoughts a lot about Jamie over these years and stuff, because um he's really come full circle in a big way. And I'm kind of terrified because I have a feeling that he might be one of the ones that dies next episode. So I'm kind of terrified by that. I don't know if he is or not, but I kind of feel like the whole him knighting Brienne thing was kind of a nice full circle in a way for his character, even though in a way you could have him still somehow end up killing Cersei or doing something like that, or carrying on the Lannister name. But on the other hand, as far as his character goes, I feel like his character has come in a full redemption circle now that he knighted the one who kind of helped bring him to redemption. So I don't know. What
Yeah,
do you think about that?
yeah, I really like how they. I'm gonna say this in my recap, but like they've orchestrated the story in a way where it's like a lot of things are kind of winks at the audience, but it's not at the expense of the story. It's just the story. It's just like, oh, we know you're going to notice this, So just there's a feel to it. I would
Mm-hmm.
say of fan service in obvious fan service in a proper way. But yeah, the way they added to that with him coming before Daenerys, and then Bran saying, you know, what we do for love and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. It's like, ooh, like this is the core intro of the show,
Yeah.
all these things are like the first episode, and everyone besides, I don't think Brienne fought against the Starks, but like everyone else in that group has fought against them or sided against them for sure. And it's kind of ironic that they're all now on the castle and stuff, and the whole interaction. But with the knighting, the way Tormund was talking about slaying a giant and laying with the wife and suckling for 3 months, growing up on giant's milk. I thought it didn't matter if that was real or not, if that's just his legend to himself
Mm-hmm.
and his name. That was him like trying to impress Brienne, because she's always been laughed at and whatnot, mocked for her size and stuff, where she's mannish, and it's kind of how she comes into the show and grows up as a character. Is, I would say, through in a interesting way, not a how would you say, SJW way, gender identity, if you will, because she's kind of got that tomboy
Mm-hmm.
storyline of like, yeah. So yeah, I feel like he was trying to impress her and really speaking to something core in her character. And then Jamie, I felt it's pretty obvious that he's like trying to figure out how to show his love to her, because he's only had love for Cersei.
Right.
And so it's really foreign to him, despite all the ladies that would love him, like Prince Charming. And I really felt he was flexing what he could to impress Brienne and to really take the upper hand against Tormund.
Mm-hmm.
But no one else seems to have interpreted that scene that way.
Yeah. That's an interesting point. I definitely agree that I think that was kind of Jamie's way of trying to show his his compassion for Brienne and stuff. I don't know if yeah, I mean he definitely has a romantic interest in Brienne as well, but that scene might have been kind of him just kind of showing compassion to her in a whole bunch of different levels, like whether it was romantic or just kind of like thanking her for everything that she did for him. I feel like there's a lot going on with that. with that knighting that he did for her. But I just also want to make I mean, the whole thing with like Tormund is it just killed me that entire episode. I just thought that was hilarious. Every time that he like flirted with Brienne and stuff, I was just like I was dying. I thought that it was really really funny. But Tormund is a great character, and I'm excited to see what they're going to be doing with him for the rest of this season. Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was cool how they had like kind of I think you made the comment that it was cool how this episode kind of harked back in some ways to like the first episode of the entire season. There was a lot of definitely nods to that in this episode with the like Bran seeing Jamie and the comments that he made towards him. I thought that was really good, and it was really cool like hearing like Tyrion talk about how like the first time that he came to Winterfell and how things have changed so much since then. All of that stuff. I thought that was really really good as well. Yeah, It's a Vase production says here lots of callbacks to stuff in season 1. So yeah, that's I definitely feel that way with this episode as well. And let's see, we have Ruth in the chat as well. Thank you for being here, Ruth. If you could, oh, you did. Okay, yeah. Thank you for dropping a link to Black Angus's channel as well. If you guys want to go check him out and subscribe to him, he's a great guy, and he has some really awesome videos that he's doing right now about Game of Thrones. So definitely go check out his channel. Let's see. Comrade Commodore says, hated Jamie early on. Now I just wish he had his hand back. Definitely one of my favorite characters in the show. Yeah, Jamie's grown to become one of my favorites as well. And at the beginning of the whole show, he was one of my least favorite, and now he's become one of my favorites. So it's just really cool seeing how his character has come so far. So
yeah, he reminds me a bit of Han Solo. And I was going to add because I definitely feel maybe his character won't make it out of the show. But if anyone was feeling that he would get offed in this episode, especially just coming to Winterfell, it's like they're going to build more out of it. They're going to milk what they can, but also they need to have it actually make sense. And yeah, it does make sense in a large scheme kind of way for Daenerys to maybe cut his head off for crimes against her family. But there's no attachment. This show is very much about playing with your emotions and making you invest in these relationships that get torn, like Jon and Sam and Daenerys all kind of turning on each other in these 2 episodes, to some degree at least. And with Jamie, it's got to be some interaction at least with Tyrion before he dies, or with Cersei, or with Brienne. I don't think he can go out without somehow being tied to one of those 3 characters.
Black Angus, you're cutting in and out quite a bit. So I don't know if you want to. I don't know if there's anything you can do about that. But
I'm so sorry.
You're kind of lagging out.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, what I was saying is that Jamie has to be tied to Tyrion or Cersei or Brienne, I think, before he gets killed off.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of there's part of me that feels that way. Like there might be still more to his story. But I don't know why. I just have this feeling that his story is going to be coming to an end in the next episode. Because I think part of everyone wants him to somehow end up having the final fight between him and Cersei, and I could definitely see something like that happening. But I kind of have a feeling that somehow his story is going to be wrapping up in the next episode. But on the other hand, maybe they will do something more with him. I'm really curious because I think that pretty much everything to do with the Night King and the White Walkers and stuff is going to be pretty much tied up in the next episode. Um, and then the last 3 episodes will be kind of focused on the fallout of that and who's going to be on the Iron Throne and all of that stuff. Um, but so it's going to be interesting to see how they do that, and I'm just curious how they're going to be um, moving forward, tying things up with Cersei. That's kind of getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, I guess, because obviously we have the Night King that's going to be attacking attacking Winterfell next episode. Um, so I see some people in here kind of making some comments about the whole Arya thing.
Yeah.
So, um, what are your thoughts about the Arya scene, Black Angus?
I was totally fine with it. Of course, being the deviant I am, I wanted to see more. Um, I don't have that block in my head of like, oh, I grew up with her, so now kind of like how in real life, if you have a best friend that's
Hmm.
the opposite sex, then you see each other naked or something when you're older, it's like, oh, he's like a brother or sister to me. It's like, no, I don't feel that at all with Arya. I'm
Hmm.
not really attracted to her, but it's just yeah, sex. But but no, I guess it makes sense. I'm not a shipper of them two. I get way more behind John and Daenerys. So they well,
You're still cutting it out quite a bit, Black Angus.
yeah. um
I don't know why that is, but
yeah, I don't know. Let me see. I might go in the front room. Can you hear me now?
yeah, I can hear you, but it's just like you cut out sometimes, and then I can't hear what you're saying.
Huh. Yeah, I was just saying that I'm not a shipper of Gendry and Arya, but it makes a lot of sense. The only person I could see her having a real chemistry with would be the Hound, given their background, and there seemed to be. I thought that was where it might go at some point between them before when they brought him back and stuff. But we'll
Hmm.
see.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, like it didn't really offend me or bother me that much. The whole Arya Gendry thing. I mean, I know that Maisie Williams. I think she's like what 20 something.
It's 22.
Yeah, 22. So it's not like it's that weird or anything. And even if I don't know how. I don't think they've ever really like specifically said how old Arya is or anything. But but I feel like she has to be kind of around the age that our country, I guess, considers the right age for it and stuff. But even if she's not, I mean, this is kind of a medieval type of show and stuff, so it's not like it's being like super creepy or anything for them. And on top of all that, I mean, like I said, Maisie Williams is like 22 years old, so it's not like it's that weird, I guess. I don't know. I didn't really find it that weird. And I was actually kind of surprised that there were people that were kind of weirded out by that. But
Yeah, honestly, I think about this a lot because like people don't know this, but like my goal for college, I want to eventually get a degree in psychology and try to pursue master's or doctorate to be like a sex therapist. So like sexuality really interests me a lot beyond just like, oh yeah, enjoyment. Like it really interests me as like a factor in society. And I think about that a lot in stories like this where it's like, man, like how can you go out and be a virgin? It's I like that they actually had a show where it's like it explicitly addresses that idea of like, well, I want to know what it's like before I die. It's like, how many people like you watch a World War II movie and their characters, given the time frame they're in, it's like moral America, and so even though there was just as much adultery and fornication as today, it was kept a lot more under wraps, and you had to be a lot more suave to partake of that, I guess. And
Mhm.
so you see characters like that in movies like that. It's like, man, I bet this is some dumb, kid from Iowa that never got laid before he died for our flag or whatever ideal you want to say he died for. And it's like, I love that they used a character to address that, especially her, because she's such like a feminist icon, if you will, in modern day, that actually isn't for her to explicitly not be a man hater and like seek this guy to have sex with them. It's like, okay, this is another like fu to the SJWs, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I kind of felt that same way too. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really think one way or the other with that scene. It was just kind of like, I mean, I could understand why Arya was doing that. I mean, I thought that was cool how they kind of showed how all these different people kind of handled, you know, dealing with. Let's see. For some reason, it's not showing my camera, and I'm not sure why that is. Um, Hold on a second here. Okay, there we go. So yeah, basically, I thought it was cool how this episode kind of showed how all these people were kind of dealing with their final hours, of what they considered their final hours, and it kind of showed how like some of them basically just sat around and drank. Some of them, like Arya, wanted to have sex for the first time. So I thought that was cool how they showed all these different people dealing with that. Even like with Jon Snow being down in the crypts or whatever, and looking at his mother and stuff. I thought that was really cool. So yeah, I thought that was just really neat. It was a interesting episode, and these two episodes aren't really going in one way how I expected, because they're just so slow and the buildup is so drawn out. But it's so cool getting to, I guess, reflect on these characters and
Yeah,
see where what they're thinking, see them all meet up with each other for like the first time in forever, and all of that stuff. So I think that that's really awesome.
yeah. I was thinking of just funny. Maybe someone will edit this, but I thought it'd be funny if they would have included "I Just Had Sex" by Lonely Island when they cut back to Arya laying down. Just so out of world. But yeah, people keep complaining, about like, oh, the show's going so slow, and I got Jesse Milestone is just so triggered about everything about the show in season 8, and I'm like, what the hell have you been watching this whole time? Like, this is the end, and I definitely feel, especially knowing that they filmed the battle that's about to take place for like 50 nights.
Yeah.
They're going to go out with a bang.
Oh yeah.
It's they're to be, I guess, frank, they're blue balling us a lot, and they know they are, but it's all important that you're getting. There's, as opposed to like Breaking Bad, there's a few episodes you can say that are filler, like the Fly episode, especially everyone hates.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't feel anything is filler. Like everything is having an effect. When me and Brandon Moist and company, we were recapping some of these seasons, it was so hard to talk about the show at like season 2 and be like, man, this has so many ramifications for like season 6,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So
Yeah, it doesn't bother me what they're doing with these episodes. I like the fact that we're getting to kind of experience these moments with these characters, because we're not going to have very many opportunities left to kind of just I guess just sit back and just enjoy the presence of these characters like this much longer. So I think it's really cool how they're just kind of, I guess, kind of just taking their time, getting us to kind of see a little bit deeper into what these characters are feeling, get to see them interact with each other a little bit more on a slower level. And I don't know, I like it, and I'm glad they're doing this. I'm glad they're just not just jumping right into a bunch of action, and just that's just what this whole season is going to be about. That's kind of that was one of my worries going into the season, was that this whole season was just going to be pretty much nothing but fighting, battles, killing, all that stuff. And I'm glad that it hasn't been that way yet.
To
So,
add to that really quick,
yeah.
people are complaining about this. They're probably the same people, if they know enough about film to critique it, they're probably the same people that were crying about The Hobbit Part 3 going on forever with its CGI battles, which
Right.
That's all I felt. Was like, I rewatch. I like The Hobbit, but man, it goes on way too long without any emotional buildup for a lot of it in
Mhm.
part 3. So yeah, this is the way it should go. Even though coming off of season 7, we're really expecting like some high peaks.
Yeah.
This...
Yep. Yeah, and let's see, what was I gonna add on to that? Yeah, but I think that next episode is going to be pretty much nothing but fighting and battle sequences and all that stuff. And if you think about it that way, I mean, next episode's pretty much like a feature length film. So if you're getting pretty much a feature length film that's pretty much about nothing but a battle. So I mean I think that's definitely going to be making up for these 2 slower episodes that we've been getting, and I think it's going to be really awesome getting to kind of have that build up into this episode. And I think that years down the line, as we are all binging through Game of Thrones again and stuff, when we get to this part, when we watch these 2 episodes and then we watch the episode with the battle, I think people will appreciate it more down the line than they do now. So
Yeah, I definitely agree. Sorry, I'm eating a Lunchable, so that's why I keep muting myself.
oh, you're fine. You're fine. Let's see here. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the stream. Alpha Swag, Random Nerd of Doom. Hello, hello. Welcome to the stream as well. Let's see. The Arya scene was really creepy, seeing her from a child, and I mean, yeah, I guess I guess I can kind of understand why people would feel that way. Seeing her like as a little kid and now seeing her as an adult and stuff. But I don't know. And yeah, I don't know. It didn't really bother me that much. It was just kind of like, well, I mean, I know that she's older now, so it's not like it's that weird. But yeah.
See, my clap back to that is like Lindsay Lohan is in the Parent Trap. Then you see her in like I Know Who Killed Me and Mean Girls and stuff. It's like, wow, that is it's a nice specimen there. Or like Drew Barrymore. She's an ET when she's 3, but it's like I find her so attractive in 54 States, and I totally detach it to it. This is I can see more because of the linear progression you've seen with this actress.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. At some point, you got to be like open to characters becoming more sexual or whatever. This is a lot more explicit than even Drew Barrymore, but
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Hey, Tina, welcome to the stream. Good morning. She says, I was organizing my Bible study for the day and saw you were on. Thought I'd stop by as a fairly new Game of Thrones watcher. And hello there, Black Angus Reviews.
What's up, Tina?
Yeah, thanks for being here, Tina. I appreciate that. How are you enjoying Game of Thrones? Hopefully, we're not spoiling too much for you here, if you haven't caught up yet. But yeah, thank you for being in the chat. Let's see. Alex says it's basically, or basically, it's going to be like episode 9 of Game of Thrones season. Those episodes every season are nothing but battle. Yeah, I think next episode is pretty much going to be nothing but fighting and killing and battling and all that stuff. I think that's pretty much what the whole episode is going to be dedicated to, and then I think we'll probably get a couple more kind of maybe slower type of episodes. Probably not as slow as these ones, but kind of a little bit slower and probably a lot more dramatic and political. And then we'll be getting probably one more battle before this is all over. But yeah, that's kind of how I think this season's going to be going down. But yeah.
Yeah, all these people that are complaining about the first 2 episodes, they're going to be dying of desperation for the next show to come out. Once the season's over, they're going to be like, oh, it's over. No.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why I'm just kind of like just enjoying what we're getting right now because this is pretty much the end of Game of Thrones, and it's really sad. It's really sad to think that, but that's why I'm just like these are kind of our last moments, just getting to just kind of sit back and enjoy these characters for who they are. So we might as well just sit back and enjoy them as much as we can. So
yeah, I don't know if I told you, but my daughter, her middle name is kind of a conglomeration name. So my wife loves Snow White, so there's that aspect. But I was stationed in Fort Drum for 2 years in my 4 years in the Army,
mm-hmm.
and so that's the North Country. That's they send Alaskan soldiers to train in our snow. That's how crazy it gets.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so growing up with Game of Thrones the last few years, being up there, having a daughter's like, ooh, snow, even though that's like a bastard name of the show, it's like no one thinks of it as bastard. They just think of Jon Snow.
Mhm.
And I think in the North Country and everything, it's translates very well to Winterfell. So yeah, Game of Thrones is pretty near and dear to me. It's not as much as Star Wars, but man, it's probably a close second.
Mhm. Yeah. Um. Yeah. I love this show a lot too, and you know, this is the thing I appreciate about this show is that it's like because I'm a huge fan of fantasy type of stuff, especially high fantasy type of action and drama and all that. So that's why I really like this show. Is because I feel like this is kind of this is definitely I would say one of the best fantasy things we've gotten since Lord of the Rings, and that's why I really have enjoyed the show because it kind of has helped feed into my love of fantasy to kind of keep me over until the next epic fantasy thing, whatever that's going to be. Um,
Oh, it's probably going to be A Wrinkle in Time too.
yeah, or maybe Warcraft too. That'd be awesome.
Oh man, I tried to watch that. It's on my because I used to work in a movie store, so I'd get a lot of downloads from all the
Sure.
stuff. And so I got Warcraft because it looks cool, and I was kind of intrigued. I never played WoW, but and it had Ragnar Lothbrok or Lothbrok, however the hell his last name is. It had
Yeah, yeah.
Ragnar from Vikings, which I really love that show. I need to catch up.
Oh yeah.
On.
Oh my gosh, I love that show so much.
And then you see this movie for like 20 minutes, and like the wizard sounds like just some American guy cosplaying. Oh man, this does not match well.
No,
But
no.
yeah, how did clearly you probably knew about it being a huge Game of Thrones or a Lord of the Rings fan, but like how did you come into the show? Were you a fan of the books before the show, or
No, actually, I became interested in the show kind of. I didn't watch it right away when it first started coming out and stuff. I saw that there was like there's a lot of like marketing stuff for like especially when the first season was out, and I remember just seeing all of the marketing for it, all of the really cool different characters, the weapons, the creatures, all of that stuff, and I was just like, man, I this show looks really awesome. And then it was I started watching it when season 4 or 5 was out. That's when I started getting into it. There was a friend of mine who I used to work with who was a huge fan of Game of Thrones. And even though I wasn't watching it and stuff, like he would always talk to me about it, and he was always like super excited, like Monday mornings when we'd get into work, and he would tell me what happened in the episode and stuff, and I was just like, man, the show sounds just absolutely awesome. So that's he was kind of the one that got me into watching it, and man, I'm glad I did because it's fantastic. It's really good.
yeah? Does your wife watch it with you? Because I know you said she doesn't really like violence or gore or anything.
Yeah, no, she doesn't watch it with me. She's not really too much into movies with or TV shows with like very yeah, intense, mature type of themes and stuff. So
Everything.
yeah, yep.
Yeah, I was going to ask you the last thing before we get more into just the episode again, or wherever you want to take it. Was Christianity seems to be a big part of you, and that's good. I'm an atheist, but I definitely respect Christendom, and I definitely know it's what it's done for society overall good. And I was just wondering because there's a lot of people that their Christianity or their religion will keep them from a show like this because of austerity or whatever. But then you see someone like there's this bishop I follow often on. Being ex-Catholic, I appreciate his insight. He does movie reviews, Bishop Barron on YouTube, and he was reviewing like Shape of Water, which is like the whole point of that movie is sexuality, and it's like, wow, how does if a bishop can have a clean conscience talking about these films and seeing art, and then realizing that especially Catholicism has preserved so much quote unquote perverse art through its history. And it, I don't know, just gives me a different perspective that I didn't have at a younger age. And so I was wondering how it is for you. Do you appreciate it just as art that's talking about real life and not trying to shield you per se, like say Pure Flix would do,
Yeah.
or like how do you go about it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, for me, I'm just a huge fan of really good stories and really good characters. Especially like I said, I'm a huge fan of fantasy type of stuff. I think that fantasy, honestly, it's one of those genres that really needs to be like reevaluated by people for the potential it has to have really powerful metaphors and allegories and stuff in it. I feel like that's kind of been lost a little bit with a lot of people who write fantasy and make movies that are fantasy based. And the thing I like about this show is that it's very I would say it's very allegorical, especially of like politics and things like that. And that's what I really appreciate about this show. And the fact that it is very allegorical in a lot of ways with things that we deal with in real life, and that's something that I really just appreciate. I love the story. Stories. I've always just been someone who really appreciates good stories. I mean, my dad, when I was like a kid, he would have me like read things like the Iliad, all those types of books and stuff. Epic of Gilgamesh, built Beowulf, all those really really awesome classic stories that have just changed the world in a lot of ways. And so I, because of that, I've always just really appreciated good stories. And whenever there's something that comes out that has a good story in it, despite what some of the themes might be, I'm always willing to, if it has a good enough story that I can glean something from it that improves my character, something where like it has really good redemption themes or anything like that. I'm willing to look past some of those mature elements that might be in there that some Christians might look down at me for watching Game of Thrones for and stuff. But on the other hand, as a Christian, part of being a Christian is having self control, and that's kind of a big thing. Is that like self control is kind of part of Christianity in a way and stuff, and kind of having that discipline. So when elements show up on the screen that I don't that I'm not really a fan of and stuff, I usually just avert my eyes for a bit or something and all that, and just kind of look away. And because of that, I don't know, it's not really that big of a deal for me, because it's not like I'm watching Game of Thrones to try to get off on it or anything. I'm watching it because of the story and the characters and wanting to be impacted by them in some way. And so I don't know. I know that it's a very very controversial thing among Christian circles and stuff, but
Yeah.
um, so I guess those are just kind of my takes on it. And when I was going to start watching Game of Thrones, I was like, okay, I'm going to watch the first season, see how I feel about it, kind of think about it some more, and then kind of go from there. And I watched the first season, and I was like, okay, I can do this. And it obviously, the first season's kind of the roughest as far as all of that goes. But after that, I was just kind of like, you know what, my if I can have self control, I can make it through this and stuff, and I can just kind of enjoy this for how good of a story it really is. So that's kind of what kept me going through it. So yeah.
No, yeah, it's really cool. I definitely think hearing you, because your channel is very topical in the moment, and that's not bad, especially like you have your own personal takes and stuff. It's not just here's what's happening, and so that's good. But I definitely think you could have some very engaging conversation. I just had David Stewart on. Thank him, of course, for coming on at all to such a little nobody like me. We had a really good conversation. I definitely think both y'all being Christian and stuff. We had some great discussion about like not hiding your stances, not hiding your religion or your politics when
Hmm.
discussing escapism, but you know, being courteous, I guess, within reason. But yeah, definitely not. It's like Oh, he was talking about the whole like comic skate idea of apolitical, and it's like, well, nothing's apolitical. You know, you're writing from a bias, you're writing from a perspective. It's all about, yeah. So I definitely want you to reach out if you can to have to sit down with him and talk, because
Okay.
yeah, he's really
Cool.
he's someone that's kind of on the fringe of the fandom in a set. Is a really good thinker, and he may not agree with everything. I clearly don't, but
Yeah.
yeah, he's really engaging, and I think he'll enrich you. One thing I want to say about fantasy was, I was reading Lord of the Rings in high school, while I was watching the movies, kind of enjoying it, and then seeing the difference and everything. And what was funny was I sat down and started reading the book of I think Samuel, First or Second Samuel, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and reading the dialogue, especially read like Douay Rheims or King James.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You know how like really there's no unique story, there's no unique music, it's all built off of someone else before you.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that when I read First Second Samuel. Was like, yeah, everything that's cool about Lord of the Rings, it's just Old Testament style writing.
Right. Right.
It's that's kind of cool, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I like the Old Testament better as far as like storytelling.
Right. Yeah. The Old Testament has definitely some really, really interesting stories. And yeah, there's there's some pretty wild stuff that happens in the Old Testament. And that's one of the things is like even like the Bible has some pretty intense passages and stories about sex and about very mature themes like that. And but that isn't like what the Bible's about, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like for me, like it's different between watching a show or something like Game of Thrones, where you're hopefully watching it for the story. If not, if you're just watching it for the sex scenes, then you're kind of wasting your time. Um, it's kind of like it's different for me watching Game of Thrones and watching like porn, per se. Like they both have very different intentions for what they're trying to give you. And so I think it's kind of comes down to why are you watching these things, like if you're if you're someone that's watching porn for a good story, then you're the dumbest person on the planet. But so it just kind of comes down to what's your motivation, why are you watching this, and all that stuff. So as a
yeah,
as a Christian, it's I guess like in a lot of ways I like there's a lot of Christians who are very cut and dry, like they say things like tattoos are evil, and I'm like, okay, but okay, where in the Bible does it say that tattoos in themselves are evil? It's a marking you're putting on your body. What's your and for me it's kind of more like what's the motivation behind it? What's the questions that you're asking yourself? Why am I doing this?
yeah. What? It's all about the subjectivity of the art, not the art form itself. I think that could
Exactly.
be sinful in in your setting or a lot of other religions. I mean, if anything, like I've seen some articles when I used to follow tattoo culture a lot before I got them.
Hmm.
I get all these magazines with the models, and I'd read the actual articles because I spent my money on it. And there's stuff like pit bull, uh, like I don't know, guys that are like ex-cons, ex-druggies, whatever, and they have like kind of this Christian pit bull rehab thing, where it's like take care of a dog and take care of your soul essentially, and they got all these tattoos that are like Jesus and messages and whatnot. So I mean,
Yeah.
there's definitely an argument you can say about using your temple to as a message,
Mhm.
like a flyer. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I guess in some ways I think that things are a lot with Christianity. I think things are a lot more complex, and you know we serve and worship a God who's alive and is fluid and is moving and stuff, and that's why we worship. That's why we have like the Holy Spirit within us to kind of help guide us to think about things, think through things. And it's not so I don't know. Like I just get very frustrated when I talk with Christians who don't want to have conversations about these things, and they're just like, no, that is wrong. That is wrong. You can't do this. You can't do that. Even though a lot of those things aren't even specifically said in the Bible to be wrong. So yeah, I don't know. So let's see here. Tina says, all that preparing last night gave me a strong Helm's Deep vibe. I kept waiting for Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas to show up with an elfin army. Yeah, I definitely had that Helm's Deep type of vibe as well. Let's see here. And then Tina says, I started reading Judges in full as part of a study, and it's been more insightful than I knew. It's one of those books where I think most ministers discuss Samson or Deborah. Yeah, I think that a lot of people kind of glean or kind of look past a lot of the stuff that's actually in Judges, but overall, it's a really, really fascinating book, and there's a lot of really crazy stuff that happens in that book. Thank you for the $5 super chat, comrade. I appreciate that. Drag the stream out. Good listen while I work outside this Michigan weather. Oh, you're from Michigan too. That's awesome. I think you might have told me that before, but yeah, that's really awesome. I'm always glad to see more Michigan representation in my streams. So
Representation matters.
representation matters. I need more Michiganders. So thank you for that, Conrad. I really, really appreciate that. And yeah, we'll probably go on for a little bit longer here. Grand Rapids, wow, you're like really close to me. You're only like, I don't know, 45 minutes away from me. So wow, that's actually really cool. West Michigan is the best side of Michigan. So yeah, I thank you for that, Conrad. I appreciate that. Louisiana, get out of here. Get out of here, Alex. Get your Louisiana representation out of here. Nobody cares about
Gross.
Louisiana.
Take your Saints and your Katrina and get the hell out of my chat.
Go back to the bayous where you belong. Oh, man. Kentucky, we have some Kentucky representation in here.
I thought you were calling cookies.
Cucky, we got some cuck representation in here. Let's see. There's one of the things about the show that I really want to talk with you about, Black Angus, is the whole when Jon told Daenerys his lineage.
Yes. That's what I was going to ask you if we could get to, because I got some cool theories. But yeah, let's see where you're going with this first.
Okay, so as soon as this show started out, I was like, and I even talked about this in my last stream talking about Game of Thrones. I was like, I really think that this show is going to end up being Jon versus Daenerys. I really think that they're going to end up being the ones against each other for the Iron Throne. And you know, Daenerys has really become very, very power hungry. She's become very, I guess, she's starting to become a little bit crazy in a lot of ways because of that. And,
she's starting to show her Targaryen nature.
Yeah, exactly.
Theoretically.
And I really, especially after when Jon told Daenerys his lineage, and you could tell that Daenerys did not like that at all. And I really think that is going to be setting up what's going to be happening after the whole Night King thing. I really think it's going to end up being Daenerys and Jon Snow being against each other. And I don't know how it's going to happen, but I do think that it's possible that the Lannisters might end up helping out Jon Snow and being against Daenerys in a way. I don't know how crazy that would be. I don't know how that would work out, but I kind of have a feeling that it's going to end up being the Lannisters and the Starks kind of becoming allies against the Targaryen Daenerys, I should say. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think, Black Angus?
Okay, so it might take a little bit to piece out, but yeah, when I saw that scene, her reaction, whatever love she has for Jon, I don't think stopped with the incest implication. I don't think they care, and they have the history. And I think she was probably conditioned in a certain way, given you watch the first season, they first introduced her with her brother, and he's like playing with her nips, and it's like, oh, it's her brother and shit. And you can definitely tell there's an attraction on his part to her, and the whole history of kind of the Egyptian parallel of incestuous matrimony and whatnot through their line. So it doesn't seem like she would perhaps, especially thinking like real world of like conditioning. I don't think she's when the showrunners said that, like, oh, the realization that they're related is going to be a big fallout between them, I took that as like a kind of pairing it with the actual actress and actor being like, oh, it's kind of sick, given the circumstance of their actual characters' stories. So I was thinking just the incest part, but it seems it's what I didn't think was the power part, with them being Aegon, the last living male heir to the throne, since Maester Aemon, forsook it and went to the wall. And so there was that intrigue, and it definitely showed her resolve that, she's always said, the throne will be mine and this and that. And, sometimes it gets old, but it's like they've really kept her true to her motive, because this season 7 really sidetracked her, because you wait 6 seasons for her to cross the sea. She finally does it. And it's like, oh, we got to go north to the wall, So it's like, oh, more stalling, in that aspect. So there's that. And so I definitely pick up on the whole, it's a D and J fight, and that would work with the Fire and Ice, because even though he's a Targaryen, he's grown up as Stark. He represents the North, and she's the Fire and Blood. She's got the dragons. But I really think, because like the imagery for Fire and Ice, Song of Fire and Ice, has been an ice dragon and a fire dragon, and now you got the Night King and Daenerys and her two. But I really think it might be a play on Stark versus Targaryen. I really don't think it's actually the Night King. I think it's if not Jon and Dany, I think it's Sansa and Dany, or Sansa versus Jon as the new Targaryen stand-in if Dany gets killed. Where and I'm just thinking also with Cersei, I could see her actually just ruling the bottom half of Westeros and letting everyone die, maybe walling off the south or something, because I think perhaps this could go in a very ultimate end of like feminism. And I don't mean that the way we think of it with our community, but just actual feminism, like, expressing like feminine joy or whatever you want to spin. I really think Cersei, or it'll either be Cersei, Sansa, or Daenerys that'll lead Westeros, or at least part of Westeros, to end the show. Because the whole thing is all men must die, and you can kind of play. There's a lot of parallels with Lord of the Rings, so you can definitely play with the whole all men must die. And some woman, takes the throne, like Cersei's already done.
Yeah.
But with Cersei, she wasn't in this episode at all, and I'm really thinking the importance they're putting on her being pregnant and playing Euron like it's going to be his kid. I really think Jaime is going to have some ultimate battle with Euron, perhaps. Over Cersei. But yeah, overall, I've thought about Cersei because the prophecy of 3 children. I always thought it meant that her being pregnant would mean she would become the Night Queen.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be crazy. That'd actually be really crazy. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I really like those theories, and that's one of the things I like about Game of Thrones is that like at this point, like it's really really hard to pin down where they're going, but yeah, I definitely like, man, I really do think that somehow the whole Night King thing is going to be ending with the next episode, and then it's going to end up being Daenerys, Jon, Cersei, kind of all trying to get the Iron Throne and stuff. And like you said, I do think that there's also a possibility that Westeros might end up being split up between the different countries and stuff. And then they kind of, maybe some of them kind of rule different countries and kind of so just under the Iron Throne. And yeah, the whole conversation between Sansa and Daenerys was interesting as well. It's kind of interesting how they kind of set up that there's a lot more tension and conflict between Jon and Sansa and Daenerys now. Like Daenerys in a way doesn't really, it's kind of has issues with both of them now. So I thought that was really interesting.
I wonder if Tyrion will play this to his advantage, because clearly at the end of season 7 there was the whole looking down the hallway when she goes to John's room, or he goes
Yeah.
to her room.
Yeah.
And there's like, oh, he actually loves her. And you hear that too when they're talking at the fire. It's like, oh, you know, he can whore around, whatever. And he's like, oh, those days are gone. You know, you definitely see some like remorse at his state with his intended.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And after I watched last night's episode, I went back and rewatched the trailer for Game of Thrones that they dropped like a month ago or whatever. And pretty much all the footage from that trailer is from these first two episodes, actually.
Yeah, I've noticed that because, like, you know, the way they got Jorah on the horse getting ready in the trenches,
Yeah,
and then you watch the episode and like, oh shit, like they're pulling in Avengers. They front loaded that trailer.
exactly.
They're hiding everything. It's just really smart.
The only thing I saw from the trailer that they haven't shown yet is the part where Arya is like running through the crypts or whatever, and she looks terrified. And that was like at the very beginning of the trailer. And I'm like really curious what could be happening there. Like, why is Arya, who is such a badass, running terrified through the crypts or whatever? I can't tell if it was actually the crypts. It was some sort of hallway or something. But
Yeah, you're saying that, and that's another point I was thinking. There were so many moments where, like, in crypts or in like dark rooms or something, I was always expecting a White Walker or a White or something to sneak in to the castle and just unexpectedly like stab Aegon in the back, where it's like, oh yeah, I just revealed Aegon. This is like a power struggle. He's dead. Like,
oh snap, that'd be crazy. Yeah, yeah,
because it'd be very underwhelming in one way, but it'd also be very ballsy. It's like in Red Dawn, the remake, which I never grew up with the original. But I remember the big sell was Thor is in this movie, so it's like, oh, let's see what Chris Hemsworth's doing, and you know, they win like this one part, and then like I guess for the third act, he just gets offed out of nowhere. It's like, that takes a lot of balls, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think that there's going to be some really really major twists happening with these last few episodes for sure. I think we're going to be seeing some pretty crazy things that are going to be happening. If they do end up going through where like it's kind of like Jon versus Daenerys, I wonder if because Jon has Targaryen blood, if Rhaegar is going to end up or Rhaegal is going to end up being kind of like on Jon's side.
Yeah, there was that weird look when they flew the dragons and they stopped at the waterfall, and there's just that look with the dragon like knowing. And
yeah,
I've been waiting for them to add some sort of. I was always expecting some sort of magic with the dragons to be a part of the show, which they have. They've kept them very much contained for how much of a Deus Ex Machina effect they could have on the story. You know, where it's like, hey, why don't you just all go at the Night King and burn them? You know, like, and they've never done it. Which I really don't think the dragon's going to be the key to killing the Night King, because you see his control over fire.
Yeah, exactly.
And the speaking of, you're talking about old stories you've read. Have you read Dante's Inferno?
A really really long time ago. Yeah, I haven't revisited it in a while.
Yeah, I need to because I'm working on a comic, which if you have time when we're off, I want to tell you about, because I'm really excited to be writing this.
Okay.
Being associated with Comicscape, but
yeah,
I was thinking, because part of my story is very much going to be reminiscent or reflective of Dante, at least like where the layers of the levels. I thought it was interesting thinking about where like the Night King is like they kind of inverted ice and fire for this story, but it's really just like Dante's Inferno, where like Satan is in the lowest level, which is ice, because like it's so hot it turns cold, or whatever the idea behind that was.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool that like this kind of devilish figure is an ice king, you know, which is and you know, the fire-based family is like, they're like one of the good guys so far.
yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. I think part of it might be I wonder if like the dragons are just like so terrified. Well, not terrified, but like I think everyone kind of knows just how dangerous the Night King is, because he took down the other dragon, the Syrian or whatever its name was. And so because of that, you know, it's kind of like I think that really established just how intimidating the Night King really is. But but yeah, it would be really really epic to see like I hope that they do something really really awesome with the dragons before this show ends and stuff. Like I really hope that we get some sort of really really awesome dragon versus dragon, rider versus rider type of fight before this is over. I think that would be absolutely incredible to see. Um, and I think we will because obviously we have Viserion, who's now like the Night King's dragon. So I think we will be getting something like that in next week's episode. But I can't wait for that because like I do agree that the dragons have been kind of underutilized, and especially since like George R. R. Martin, says things like technology hasn't advanced in Game of Thrones because there's dragons. And so when you have something that has that much power over the history of Game of Thrones, it seems like you'd want to use them more than you have. But yeah. Um,
Yeah. Oh, what I'm showing here.
oh
I
wow,
went
yeah,
to I went to I went to Walmart one day, and this was just hanging loose on a display. This is just this is an example why I believed the episode 9 poster leak, which has turned out to be completely real.
hmm,
Um, and yeah, I love this because this is the original Night King, as opposed to the new guy. I hate his face. They ruined his face.
yeah,
I wish they would have CGI because he looks cool. He looks menacing. The other guy's face is all drawn in too much.
yeah.
But yeah, this is what I look at when I come out of my bedroom every day. I see the cool ass Night King, and I tease my wife when I pick up my son sometimes because his door's right next to it. Um, I'll be like, "Who's that?" And he'll be like, "Mommy," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's her angry face," because she gets all kind of pouty face and tight lips, and she's got blue eyes. So yeah.
Oh, that's funny. That's really funny. Oh, that's awesome.
There was some. I'm trying to think. There was something else that was interesting. Like there was definitely the Sam giving the sword to Jorah, which I think,
Hmm.
like on a meta level, I think maybe what's kind of implicit given the society that you're watching, maybe Sam feels some sort of superstition where it's like, I took the sword from my family unworthily, it wasn't passed down, and then my father and brother died, which, given his state, he's essentially ended his family line unless he wants to get forgiveness or a pardon, I guess, to reclaim his title. Um, and so he's like handing it to someone who has forsaken their title or forsaken their family for personal gain with Jorah, and giving him a new sword since John has his sword.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just thought that was kind of cool meta, but it's like, God, please kill Sam. He's had way too much plot armor. The fact that they still, to me, I feel, even though it made a good triangle dilemma, if you will, I thought they kind of stole a really emotional scene to have Bran be kind of lifeless in telling John about his real lineage.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's Brand is Brand definitely feels like he's pretty much a shell of himself now. Um,
Ooh, sorry, I just thought before I forget, because I don't have paper next to me. Bran, I'm waiting to see him warg something, and I wonder if he can warg undead things like uh, the Night King's dragon. There
yeah,
you go.
yeah. I was actually thinking about that too. Because what is it? I can't quite remember what it is, but somewhere in one of the seasons, someone says something like they tell something to Bran like one day you will fly or something like that, right?
Yeah,
So I wonder if he's going to end up warging one of the dragons.
yeah. When I read the books, I read book 1 through 4 when I
Mhm.
was in Afghanistan, and the way it was building with his dreams, of course, it developed into the 3-Eyed Raven, but I still always saw the imagery as him being the one unexpectedly, because he's a cripple, to unite with Daenerys for some reason or
Mhm.
to ride a dragon. I didn't think about warding at the time, but I mean, I guess that could kind of fulfill what my envisioning of that metaphor, or that dream in the book. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I won't be surprised if they don't. But I was always expecting more out of Bran.
Yeah.
besides the three-eyed raven. And they've kind of, given how much they used him for a plot device in season 7, I'm really, I feel they're underutilizing, but that might just be for the plot thus far. There's no battle going on to, like, use his X-Men power.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like there's characters like Bran who I feel like still hasn't really fulfilled his full purpose yet or anything, and I'm just kind of waiting for them to do something more with him. But who knows? Who knows what that's going to be? Um, let's see here. Let's see what the chat is saying. Comrade says Ice Darth Maul is the Night King. um, let's see. I love shows like this, Vikings, The Last Kingdom. What do you think of Nightfall? I so can't wait for Lord of the Rings series. Love Game of Thrones. Um, honestly, Vikings is my favorite show of all time. I love that show so much. And yeah, like everything that has to do with Ragnar's story is just incredible. I think he is probably one of my favorite characters I've ever seen on TV and stuff. So yeah, I love that show so much. And I'm just a huge fan of Viking history, Viking culture, and mythology. So I'm really into all of that stuff. I should say Norse because Viking technically is just the term that they use for the people that go raiding and stuff. But yeah, that's I love all that stuff so much. And I love The Last Kingdom too. The Last Kingdom is probably my favorite Netflix show. I think that show is just fantastic. So if you guys haven't seen The Last Kingdom and you want to see a show that's actually kind of similar to Game of Thrones in a lot of ways, but kind of set more in a historical setting instead of a fantasy setting, definitely go see The Last Kingdom. It's really, really well done.
Yeah. Do you like the movie by Robert Zemeckis, Beowulf, with Angelina Jolie?
Uh,
No, you're breaking my heart.
there's a couple things I like about it, but overall it just yeah, no, I wasn't a huge fan of it.
Oh man, I'm like hardcore about that movie, dude. Especially watching behind the scenes, and I feel
Mhm.
it's just very underrated. And I was surprised it was Zemeckis because I love Castaway.
Right.
But no, I was gonna say, oh, if you like it, we should do a watch party and really break it down because I really like the kind of, I use it for an example of like a Satan argument of like the character Satan
Mhm.
with Grendel and kind of nature, where it's like, this is why something doesn't make sense to me, because it's like, if it's your nature, then how are you evil?
Yeah. Right.
It's a
Right.
cool dilemma.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I will say that the show or that the movie isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I actually only watched it like a couple of years ago, so quite a while after it came out. I never could bring myself to watch it because because I kind of learned what the movie is about and really kind of just pissed me off because I'm a huge fan of the book. So I wasn't really a big fan of what they did with it creatively. But after I watched it and stuff, I even though I wasn't as big a fan of it because it wasn't was what I was expecting because I'm a huge fan of the book and I was kind of hoping for something um a
By
little
the
bit
book.
more loyal to what the actual mythology is of Beowulf. I actually did enjoy some things about the movie. I thought that they did some really good stuff in that movie. But yeah. Um so let's see here. I have not seen Nightfall either, Big Daddy. I have not seen Nightfall yet. I don't know if I will. I don't know. I might check it out at some point, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it's any good or anything. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not really looking for new shows to watch right now. But maybe someday I'll check it out.
Wait, do you have a show lined up or something lined up besides maybe Avengers or rewatching Avengers series to fill the void that's going to come once episode 6 is done?
Oh man. Um that's a really good question. Yeah, I don't know. I really do need to find a new show to get into, but I can't really find anything that can really like I don't know. I keep on like looking at all these new shows that are coming out, and none of them really have really grabbed me. None of them really seem that interesting to me. I don't know why that is, because I love having like a show to watch kind of whenever I have like a little bit of time and stuff, and just to kind of get into. But there's nothing really that's out right now that's really grabbing my attention, and I don't know why that is. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't have anything lined up, but it's something I'm definitely becoming more and more aware of, like at least trying to game plan something. Like
Mm-hmm.
when I finished The Office the first time, it was like a huge hole in my heart afterwards. Like there's
Yeah.
no more Office, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And for me, like it's like, okay, well, Game of Thrones is ending, which is like one of the best TV shows of all time. How do you fill that hole? Like, that's like,
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll rewatch the Peter Jackson, Middle Earth series, I guess. But
right.
yeah, I don't know, like something new to catch my eye.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so much crap out now. That's what's hard. You gotta, when you're on Netflix, you gotta dig through so much to find something that you haven't seen before. It looks good.
Exactly. Yeah, it's I feel like it's really hard to find really, really good shows that are new nowadays. Um, I don't know. I feel like TV's in a really, for the most part, pretty bad slump right now. Like there's nothing out that's really that great, I don't think. Um, we need like another big show to come out that will kind of like take the place of Game of Thrones and stuff, because we don't really have anything like that right now. Um,
Yeah, I mean, maybe you can look into this later. I've thought about this. I just now thought about possibly trying to research enough to make a concise like video essay. But I've always felt that we're in this kind of new '60s era. Like the '90s tried to be the '60s, but it's perfect time. Like the budget was balanced and everything, and there was no real war for like 10 years, no conflict. It was pretty easy going. Communism failed in Russia. But in the '60s, there was before the Beatles, there was like this lull where you had like the explosion of Chuck Berry, rock and roll, Elvis, everything.
mhm.
Um, and you also had like the kind of comeuppance in the economy post World War II from the bonds and everything paying off. Um, but then you get the '60s, and there's like this lull. There's the recession, like we've had 10 years ago.
Yeah.
There's just a staleness to entertainment
Mm,
and to what they're showing on TV, and the music. Everything's kind of generic. There's kind of like this post doo wop where every rock and roll, quote unquote, is just kind of doo woppy and plain and safe for kids. No edge. And then the Beatles come out, and then you have like the Season of Love or whatever, the flower power, and there's like differences of opinion and everything. And I feel the same way with music, where like everything's basically generic and the same. Nothing stands out, and it's getting that way with TV. There's a couple things, a couple movies, but it's just like if we don't have a blockbuster, you never see anything that's like art house that says something. There's no middle budget stuff. Stuff like Arrival barely comes at all.
yeah.
I don't know. It's weird flux now that you're making me think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully, hopefully some of these bigger shows that are going to be coming on like Amazon and stuff in the near future will kind of hopefully take the place of that, like the Lord of the Rings show, or Sword and Circle, things like that. I really I still don't have very high hopes for the Witcher series that Netflix is making.
Oh yeah, that promo with Cavill. It's
Uh,
like you should have just not.
it was so bad. It was like, if you want to compete with Game of Thrones, you have to do better than this.
Well, the other problem is using Superman. We're like, regardless how you feel about the
Yeah,
Snyderverse or Cavill, um, it's too big a name, I think, to
yeah,
throw on a big game project
true.
adaptation. Where it's like Star Wars. Besides Harrison Ford from American Graffiti, like no one knew who the hell was on screen.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Same with Game of Thrones. Besides Sean Bean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yep. And to be honest, like I'm kind of in a weird spot where I don't want any more like superhero TV shows. I don't know why, but I'm kind of like getting over superhero TV shows a little bit. Like I'm excited for the ones that are going to be coming on Disney Plus, even though it's kind of overwhelming how many shows they're going to be putting on that thing. Um, but I just want like a really, really good show that maybe isn't superhero related or anything like that. I don't know. I might have to check out Breaking Bad because I've never seen Breaking Bad.
Oh, dude, if you yeah, I feel Breaking Bad is in a very vague, extended way an extension of masculinity in modern time, questioned and analyzed
Mm-hmm.
after Fight Club. You know, Fight Club's definitely that's the whole thing. It's kind of a retrospective on America and credit and everything and entertainment and just materialism. But
Mm-hmm.
also the main thing is masculinity and trying to like contain it in the sterile society. And Breaking Bad kind of develops that way. Like everyone gets overwhelmed or focuses on like the kingpin aspect of it, but it's really you know it's well written because this is this guy doing evil with a justified kind of motive to start, but then it just keeps building and building. But you keep rooting for him. They get you to really empathize with this villain. Really, I would say it's even better than Thanos because it's more real world. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the masculinity is like really at the key from the very start, and it shows itself every once in a while. And I think it's really the overarching thing is a man trying to assert himself and going about the wrong ways to do it.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I actually I think I watched the first episode if I'm not mistaken a while back, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. But that was kind of when I was overwhelmed about with a couple other TV shows that I was trying to keep up with. So now that that's kind of slowing down, maybe I'll give it a shot and watch some more of it. Let's see here. Let's see what the chat is saying. I kind of hope Jamie dies while killing the Night King. Um, yeah, I don't know. Who do you think has the best shot of killing the Night King if that happens?
Um, I have no idea, but I was just thinking with, you know, I think that's a very preposterous person to have to put up against the Night King.
Yeah.
His plot's never crossed him really. He has no real investment against the Night King besides just being a person who wants to live and he's a main character. But if they could have him maybe give him a dragon glass hand if they've made him one before the battle starts,
Mm-hmm.
that could be interesting.
Yeah.
Because he's already used to like, you know, one hand, but then he could use not only his hand for a shield, but also to actually try to kill more White Walkers. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see. Tina says, I got my email today verifying the Netflix price increase in May. I wish they'd better justify to me more why I should keep it. For every decent thing, there's 10 average to mediocre. Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you. And that's one of the things that really interests me about Disney Plus is that obviously, you know, their prices will eventually go up with that. But starting off and stuff, like it's super competitive to Netflix's price. And obviously Disney Plus is doing that to compete with Netflix. But yeah, I don't know. Netflix I think needs to kind of step up their game in a lot of ways too if they're going to keep on increasing the price like they are, because I keep on going on Netflix and I'm looking through all of their original content. I'm like, none of this really interests me at all. Like there's been a couple movies that they put out that have been pretty good, like Triple Frontier and stuff. But for the most part, overall, it's just kind of nothing is like catching my attention on Netflix. And I don't know. I don't know what it is about it, but they really need to start putting out some I think bigger production quality type of stuff. And I think that if they do that, then they'll have a little bit more of a justifiable reason for continuing to increase their price. But yeah, at this point, there's not really anything on Netflix that is really catching my attention or being like, okay, this is the next thing I can get into. Um, so yeah, we'll have to see what happens with that. But I know that this movie got a lot of hate from people, but I really liked the Bright movie from Will Smith. And I would love to see a sequel to that because I thought that world that they built around that was actually really intriguing. The whole idea of like mythological creatures, fantasy type of stuff have always just been a part of our world. I'm kind of looking at it from that way. and seeing what they did with that, I thought was really interesting. So I would love to see that world explored more. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but I know that was like one of their most watched or viewed video or movies of all time on their platform.
Yeah, I think that movie and Bird Box are so much watched. Like, okay, I think they probably got a lot of view counts, but actual duration of watching, I don't know how long they actually have. If they'll ever
that's true.
report that.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's weird because I remember when I was a kid, probably I don't know, 06, 07, I was reading a Time magazine at this at the clinic my dad was at the time, and it's this interesting article about how every time Will Smith and Adam Sandler went head to head, Will Smith would, like, even though he makes way more obscure stuff and doesn't have like a set kind of this is a Will Smith movie, compared to Adam Sandler, he would like blow him up, like always make like twice as much in the box office, if not more. And now it's like kind of reversing, where it's like Adam Sandler's doing stuff where it's like he's kind of legitimizing his name again, in comedy, and then Will Smith is just like, "What are you doing? You did Bright, and then you did Suicide Squad, then you did YouTube Rewind.
Yeah.
You're playing the ugly Aladdin genie." God, what is this guy? Maybe it's the Scientology. I don't know. Maybe he's receiving what Tom Cruise has in as far as bad acting now.
Yeah. I know, like Will Smith used to be like one of my favorite actors, and I thought that pretty much everything he's putting out was just incredible. There was like an era where like he was doing movies like I Am Legend, 7 Pounds.
Hitch is even good. I still watch Hitch.
Yeah, Hitch was awesome. Those kinds of movies, Pursuit of Happiness, and all those movies were just like super well done. And he's a great actor, but for some reason his movie choices of what he's been in has been a little bit questionable recently. So I don't know what he's doing with that. I don't know if he's just kind of like enjoying himself now and just kind of doing whatever he wants. But yeah, it's super weird.
I also forgot too, like he needs to get back into the rapping game, be like a safe rapper, but with new beats and stuff, and he can kind of mask that safeness with like a mumble rap or whatever you want to call it today, or collabs. And he also did After Earth. I remember I was really excited about After Earth. The premise seemed cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, his son. I love Pursuit of Happiness, and M. Night Shyamalan. Everyone craps on, but I love pretty much everything he's ever done.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was just like, what the hell did I pay for?
Right. Yeah. The only thing I think one of let's see, there were a couple movies I didn't like from M. Night Shyamalan. I did not like The Happening. I thought that movie was atrocious.
Oh yeah, that one's awful.
Obviously, The Last Airbender was garbage.
But did you like Glass? Did you like Glass?
Yeah, I did like Glass. Actually,
see, everyone that complains about Marvel's formula, I see Glass as like, this is the answer.
Yeah,
like, God, if he could get like a very, maybe just start a new X-Men series, because like that's kind of how Glass is. It's kind of like there's definitely some X-Men parallels I feel from it, and God, if he could get a hold of that or something like it. I mean, even if he could do like Spawn. I know McFarlane's directing it himself, but if he gets something like, if you won't give him a giant project, give him something that's like more obscure. Or dude, Hellboy. Look at what they did to Hellboy.
Exactly.
If Shyamalan could get a hold of it, I think he could do some really cool stuff because he got source material that you can't betray necessarily. And so he's going to make sure you don't do that. But he's got a vision. And I think it would kind of translate better from Del Toro than whoever the hell that was that did Hellboy. I mean, David Harbour, actually, despite his makeup, I really liked his portrayal. But everything else,
David Harbour. Yeah, David Harbour's a great actor. I think he was just, I don't think that the script was good at all. So that was a huge part of the problem with that. It was one of the worst scripts ever. It was just awful. It was. Oh man, that was depressing. And now I'm back on the train of let's just get a Hellboy 3 from Guillermo del Toro and Ron Perlman, and then we'll be all good. That's all we need.
I mean, even if it was like David Harbour, or maybe get David Harbour to be like the physical actor, but I don't know, put the face like Looper on from Perlman.
Mm-hmm.
You can do a bunch of stuff, but
Sure.
or you just use Harbor but make it a Del Toro continuation because
Mm-hmm.
Perlman's so old now.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
don't know. There's so much you could do, or you could just utilize CGI with Perlman for everything that you need to. And it's weird too because the CGI was better in '04 than this movie. It's just like,
Oh yeah.
what has happened to CGI? Like you watch Jungle Book, which people praise and love, or Black Panther, and then you watch Episode 1 of Star Wars, and it's like the CGI looks way better
Mm-hmm.
back then.
Yeah. Yeah, oh man, the CGI in Black Panther was not that good. But yeah, I agree with you. Like I feel like that the CGI from some of those 2000s movies, like especially like the first half of 2000s were pretty good for the most part, and nowadays like the CGI is just bad. I don't know what it is. Like I think some of the best CGI movies that we've gotten in the past few years have been the Planet of the Apes movies. Um,
Oh my god, those are
yeah,
beautiful.
incredible. But like even like rewatching Lord of the Rings and stuff and seeing the CGI in that, I'm like the CGI in this is even better than it is in The Hobbit. Like
Yeah, yeah.
what
Well, you know
happened?
why? You know why? I don't know if you've watched. Do you have the extended edition Blu-ray set?
I do, yeah.
Okay, I've only watched about one disc worth of special features, but I
Mhm.
watched how they use so much miniatures and stuff,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
like how they did like Orthonc was like a really well developed thing, like wax
Mhm.
model, and they were so well made they did close-ups of it, and it's
Yep.
like when you realize that and then you rewatch it, you're like, holy shit, like they barely did any CGI to this.
Yeah. And
And
I think that's a huge problem that Hollywood is falling into where they're doing too much CGI and they're not doing enough of like the practical type of stuff. Like when you don't have a good blend between those two, then the CGI really stands out. So,
yeah, one of the best CGI, because I watched the special features to try to learn what was in the box in Castaway, the one that he kept, because I
yeah.
love that movie. Uh, and I learned that there was a whole bunch of CGI in that movie that you didn't know. Like they CGI'd rocks to make it seem a bit more desolate. They clearly CGI'd a few scenes that were kind of obvious. Like you're not going to put Tom Cruise on the tippy top of a mountain with like no railing. Um, but like yeah, there's just so much in that you don't see because it's so convincing.
Mhm. Yep.
And it's just
Exactly.
crazy that they did that back in '99, and today it's like, I mean, even Avengers Infinity War, much as I love it, um the horde just looks
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah. Yep.
Looks flat.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. Let's see here. Let me check over the chat. Yeah, Will Smith just finished Bad Boys 3 as well, so that'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Let's see. Yeah, I think we might just wrap it up here, guys. Unless there's anything else you want to bring up about Game of Thrones or whatever, Black Angus.
Well, I just want to tell people a couple things I've done on YouTube recently.
Hmm.
uh Regardless of how you feel about episode 9's trailer, which I personally really liked and actually kind of hyped me up for Star Wars again and theorizing, I did a Forrest Gump trailer parody. So go check it out. It's only 2 minutes long. It's as long as the actual trailer, maybe a little bit shorter. And if you know one of the new admin or mods on a game of Geeks and Gamers, you'll definitely get the joke and it'll be funny. And I also started my series. Did episode 1 yesterday of casting the fandom menace in Game of Thrones. Episode 1 was EVS, Comic Artist Pro Secrets and Friends. So check that out. Next week will be World Class Bullshitters and Friends, and then episode 3 is going to be Geeks and Gamers and Friends. With
Nice.
2 more episodes after that. But yeah, I
Oh,
definitely want to get your thoughts about that if you don't mind.
yeah, it was it was a really fun video to watch. I didn't really know too many of the people in this one because I'm not really into the comics side of things too much. So there were a lot of people that I didn't even know that were in that video. But it was cool seeing people like Lethal Lightning in there, even Ethan Van Sciver, some of those people, And yeah, I really did enjoy it, and I'm really excited to see what you're going to be doing with the next few episodes. So, Tina, if you could actually link Black Angus's channel in the chat for everyone, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, go check out Black Angus's recent video on it's kind of like a Game of Thrones cast. It's what is it called? Game of Thrones casting or something like that.
Casting the fandom menace in Game of Thrones.
There you go. So yeah, definitely go check out that video. It's really well done. And it was really awesome to watch. So I'm excited to see what you're going to be doing with the next ones. And the thing I like about your videos when you do these types of videos is just the way that you talk during these videos is just amazing, because like you sound so articulate and serious, and that just makes it even more funny. So it's really awesome to watch.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because like before I did Saint Germanus, I
Mm-hmm.
never had like I'm I'm the guy. I really hate comedy because comedies always disappoint me. So like everyone loves Ghostbusters 84 whatever. I'll never watch the women one. I remember seeing the trailer in theaters. I'm like, that looks awful. Not being a fan, but I hate Ghostbusters. I hate Spaceballs. So many iconic comedies I
Yeah.
despise, and I'm like, what are you laughing at? This is like, if I really feel people were kind of blinded by nostalgia and growing up with their family watching stuff. Uh, so that's it's rare that I find a show like The Office or Hot Rod to like love and adore as a comedy. So I never thought I would ever blend comedy into my works, and then I started with I did a Spider-Man video, and so I used his whole dancing scene
Oh
for
yeah.
the intro with my "Staying Alive" music, and thought it was funny because the Gillette thing just happened, so I kind of spliced it in really quick. And then I did Saint Germanus, which was almost going to be a Adam Driver video about how he's not an SJW, and then almost didn't make it because I didn't realize Jeremy doesn't, I guess at least adhere or really care about Christendom if he is Christian. Um, but I wasn't thinking of that or the fact he does Jeremy Olstein. So when I made it after I talked to Flipped Out, I was really scared he was going to think I'm like a John Lennon stalker or just not get it or think it's awful, maybe put me on blast in a bad way. But Flipped Out got me through it, and I made that. And then it's just been like every once in a while I find some inspiration that's just like, wow, where is this coming from? I've never been like a funny guy. I'm pretty literal. So when I do this stuff, like I'm just reading it. There's no real spin. It's just my writing style. And
Mm-hmm.
I guess I've always had like a documentary style to me.
Right.
And so I kind of know that people take it as like instant sarcasm. So
Yeah.
I work with what I got, and it's paid off so far. People that see it, it resonates. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see where it goes in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited
But
to.
no, it was really hard to script these episodes. Like I haven't started 2 or any of the others, but I had this big list after Saint Germanus. We were like, you got to make EVS and bullshitters, and it's like I don't have the inspiration for those. I don't have the story like like Jeremy does, kind of a reverse of Saint Francis. And so writing down all these people afterwards, when I started getting inspired, I had about 30 initially, and then it built up more and more with more people we have. So
Mm-hmm.
about 50 plus, but it was hard. Like, I'm not going to make an hour-long video and people watch like 5 minutes and, cash out.
Yeah.
So I was like, how do I split it up? Do I do it by season? I'll be spoiling stuff seasons later. So then I got the idea to split up with the High Council.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to be working now, and it kind of flows better.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was a great idea. So yeah, with that being said, thank you all for coming out. I think we're going to wrap it up here. And yeah, if you want to come on next Sunday as well, or next Monday, I should say, for the recap of next week's episode, you are more than welcome, Black Angus.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll definitely take you up on that. I love chatting Game of Thrones because Sith Kryptonian, he quit at like season 6 when Jon Snow died. He never like followed up with what happens.
Oh, okay.
And so he's out, and plus he's having kind of, I guess, personal issues and not really devoting himself to YouTube. Then
Okay.
Rookie has not watched like anything, and yeah, I just haven't been able to schedule stuff with Brandon Moist lately with our coverage. So yeah, this is great to talk in depth, episode by episode while it's developing.
Definitely. And I might see if there's some other people among our circles who watches Game of Thrones as well. We'll see if I can find anybody. Yeah, thank you for being here, everyone. Thank you for hanging out, and it was a lot of fun. Thanks for modding the chat, Tina. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I hope you guys have a fantastic day today and a fantastic rest of your week. And I'm sure Black Angus and I will both see you very soon in more videos. And yeah, have a great rest of your day, everyone. Talk to you later. Bye.